All right, guys. So we got a little bit of a different video here to respond to today. We got a couple videos on this topic. And Monica Aksamit, who's a 2016 Olympic bronze medalist, went to TikTok to address some of the misconceptions regarding Riley Gaines and the Leah Thomas situation. Two athletes involved in, mostly Riley Gaines, right? She's become like the darling of our fighting against trans athletes playing in women's sports. And Aksamit goes into this. I'm going to play the video. We have the video here. Aksamit is in a unique situation because she's medaled in the Olympics in swimming, and she also will address in another video about Stephanie Turner, who made headlines for kneeling during a competition against a trans athlete. And Aksamit kind of exposes both of them for being the frauds that they might be in this situation. Now, I think it's important to, if someone is lying about someone's accomplishments in order to fight for a cause, I think that's wrong. But I'm not gonna be. I still don't have an issue with women who may feel a certain way about this topic. But the question is, are Riley Gaines, is she really genuinely caring about women's sports? Or is she more like, well, I didn't win and I have an opportunity to make money off of my grievance, so I'm going to lie about my accomplishments in order to, garner support and make it seem like that she really missed an opportunity because she lost to a trans athlete, when in reality, the trans athlete really didn't take an opportunity from her. But then on the other hand, does it really matter if it was her or another person, because you also could be fighting on behalf of other people? So I don't know. It is. I don't know if the criticism about Riley Gaines not finishing second or third or fifth or 20th, does it really matter, right? And then you can say, well, if it doesn't matter, then why she needs to lie about her accomplishments? I think the lie does take away from the motive of why you're doing this, right? If she just been honest, hey, I wasn't great, and maybe it wasn't because of Leah Thomas, maybe I just wasn't as good as the other girls, but I still feel passionate about this topic. If she was genuine like that, maybe it would be more respectable, but obviously it doesn't matter because the whole right wing of the political side has got behind her regardless. I don't think they care if she's telling the truth or not. But I still think it is important to be honest, especially when you talk about fight for a cause. You can't fight for a cause under false pretense, right? So let's watch this video from Monica Aksamit, who's also an athlete. And so she's very qualified on these opinions when it comes to female sports. She's a female athlete. Let me make that clear. So let's watch this video of Miss Aksamit, and we'll get back.
Of these young women, Riley Gaines started training for swimming when she was 4 years old. She made it to the Olympics.
Hi, Monica Aksamit, 2016 Olympic bronze medalist. I just came to do a little bit of fact checking here for Miss Pambandi and Riley Gaines. So I pulled up my Wikipedia, which very early on mentions the Olympics and me attending and like the rest of like my medals and stuff. It's kind of funny because you actually don't see the word Olympics anywhere here for Miss Riley. And like here we wouldn't see that because not only did she not attend the Olympics, she didn't medal at the Olympics. Not this part's not to flex. It's just I'm coming here with the receipts. Here's my medal count with the Olympics being there because I medaled. I don't know why NCAA's isn't listed on here because I did medal there. Maybe it's because I have these other medals. Again, I'm really not here to flex. I'm really just here to cut the bullshit. I will point out that Riley did go to the 2021 Olympic trials and finished 85th, and she did not attend them since. I'm just going to leave it at that. Since I have you here, let's clear up some things that the media has messed up. So, Leah Thomas, the trans athlete that Riley is whining about, they both tied for 5th place, which if for anybody that like doesn't understand tying in sports, especially swimming, that means that they had a very similar time or identical, and therefore they are tied. So had Leah not competed here, Riley would still had been 5th. So Riley didn't lose to Leah. They actually both lost to 4 other cisgendered athletes. So
a lot of this around the country is being taken away from young women now because boys are.
Anyways, this is Taylor Ruck, who did win that race. She is cisgendered, not a boy. So a boy did not take anything away from Riley. She just didn't want to blame herself. Also, Leah Thomas did not break any records at the NCAA event, so saying that she had some kind of advantage just feels a little bit silly to me. But I'm no swimmer. I'm just looking at the data. Anyways, I'm going to stop this here. If you guys do want to, I'm going to do part 2 on the whole fencing thing that is also unfortunately in the news. That is my sport. I know it quite well. I've spoken to a lot of people involved, and I understand, again, the data and the sport. So if you want to come watch that, great. Coming up. And if you don't.
All right, so just a bit of a mistake that I made. I said that she played both sports. No, she's a fencer, but she medaled in the Olympics. So she knew about the Olympics. That's what I meant. So that's my mistake on that, my correction from the early part of this video. So anyway, as you can see, an Olympic gold medal, Olympic medalist debunks Riley Gaines's, resume on the whole reason why Riley became popular and her whole issue with fighting for this cause, and other people lying on her behalf, including our United States Attorney General, who you heard in the background. Attorney General Pam Bondi was the one talking about this widespread issue of boys stealing things from girls. And regardless of how you feel about the issue at hand, now if you're someone who believes that this is some wild spread issue, you're not gonna, like I said at the beginning, you're not gonna care that if Riley Gaines finished 5th or 35th or even 300s, right? The fact of the matter is, you believe this theory that boys are stealing all the girls' medals, so you're gonna get behind her in her fight. And I'm not gonna say, I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to sit here and try to say, oh, the fight for this issue is not important or not important. Like, if you want to fight for that, if you want to fight that there's only 5 trans people in sports, that's what you want to waste your time on, fine. It's a free country. You could do what you want. I think that I do think there is a problem if you have to lie about it. Like, you have to lie about you have to beef up your like make it seem like you lost out because of that. And I think that's a problem. Like, why do you need to lie? Especially when you could just literally go and Google it and look it up like this lady just did in the video. But like I said, I don't think it would matter if, like I said, if you're passionate about this issue, you think it's that important, it shouldn't matter where you medaled or what place you finished in, right? If this is something that bothers you. If I had to really if I had to like gun to my head, if I had to say, hey, is this really this big of an issue to the point where you got to pass laws and you got the Attorney General of the United States jumping in, I would probably say no. Right? I would be like, nah, it's only, how many athletes? I heard it's like 10 out of like, in college, out of like 5,000 athletes, 10 probably are trans, and they're not dominating the sports at all. So it's a right wing culture issue that worked. Obviously, it got a lot of people engaged, and people were able to use that as an issue for why they would go to the ballot box. But the problem is when these things become political, which they never really were, even back in the days when they would have mixed sports, right? If you ever been to like gym class or played on sports teams in the summer, they would mix them up when you're like in junior high, elementary, stuff like that. And I do think that there is a potential, could be a potential concern if there were like an abundance of dudes throwing on wigs to try to play women's sports, right? But I don't think that's happening, right? You just see a scenario where there are people who happen to be trans and they're like, hey, I want to play sports. But I don't know. It is a crazy topic that I think kind of is like way overblown to a degree. Like me personally, I don't think and I've been fairly consistent on this. I don't think that this shit is like a huge deal. But also, I would say, look, let the girls play with the girls, guys play with guys, and vice versa, right? Because you have scenarios where there are girls who are competing in men's sports, right? We have a current female playing in MLB baseball minor leagues as a pitcher. And then I think a few years back they had one that was on an Olympic team. I don't think they got to play, but they was on a men's baseball team. But these situations, if you're gonna cut for one, cut it all out, right? That's how you just end that discussion right there. I remember the girl that played on the football team. She got the kick for the Vanderbilt Kickers, and it was a big story. Everyone celebrated. Oh, look at the female jumping in men's sports. Do you think men probably want women in their spaces? Probably not either. So I think it's pretty neutral on both sides when it comes to that. And these are actually by men and women we're talking about, not a trans person that's like trying to play on the men's team that happen to be a woman that transitioned to a trans man trying to sign up. This was actual females that are I guess good enough, or people who believe they're good enough to play in a men's sport, and so they end up making the team or joining the team or trying out. But I think that they should just nip it all out altogether. Make it, hey, if you want to make it fair. Because if women can still join men's teams, because you say, well, if a woman's good enough to play, she should, then you're really not protecting women, right? I thought the whole point of this is protecting women. So if a woman can make a men's team and be in a locker room with men, play on the same team as men, because she was good enough, how's that protecting them? Will she still be in danger? Because she would share the locker room, she would be in private spaces with men. Because that's the concern that you always hear. That's like the one or two top concerns. Like, oh, the women, we got to keep them safe because potential assaults and privacy, blah, blah, blah. But so why no outrage when a woman or a girl's trying to play on a boys' team? Why we celebrate that if we're talking about protection? So there is a bit of hypocrisy when it comes to this issue. And then the main one, of course, would be the advantage of they could just win everything. But there's really no evidence that that's even happening. Like, they're not really winning like that anyway, or if at all. So it seems to be a bit inconsistent, and then you have on top of that with the lies of the people who are in front of this stuff. Why you have to lie about your accomplishments in order to garner support for, oh, well, you missed out because of this person, when in reality you really didn't miss out because of that person. And as Monica said in the video, Riley still would have been fifth place without Leah Thomas participating at all. So to me, I think that there's a lot of issues surrounding this whole topic. And one of the main ones for me is that people who are misrepresenting their position, misrepresenting their self in this argument. I think you should just keep it natural. You don't have to lie. You don't have to misrepresent yourself in order to make a point on why you think this is not a good thing. And you probably will get more support, because if you misrepresent yourself, you come off as being hateful and transphobe potentially. And then even women who may slightly agree with you may not want to jump on board because you're coming at it from a transphobe standpoint instead of just saying, hey, you think that you don't think it's fair. And maybe other women would join you because they'll probably believe, okay, maybe you have a point. Let's talk about this. But if you're coming at it from, I would have won and I'm missing opportunities because of these boys, it's going to be hard for you to get any support. Maybe you don't care, right? Maybe you don't care. But I like to think that it's not an issue to die on. Like, obviously, if you are pro-trans athletes in sports, I don't think this is something that people are going to, like, fucking take to the bank. But I don't have an issue with Monica debunking certain misconceptions about the dominance of trans athletes in these sports, because it appears that they're not really dominating. They're just in them. And if that's the problem with you being in the same space with them, then say that. Make that your main point. Don't say, well, they're here, they're taking all the medals and the golds and the wins, when they're probably not. So there's two different things here. You can make the point about, hey, we don't want them in our space. We just don't feel comfortable with men in our spaces, or used to be men, or whatever the case may be. Just stick to those points, because then at least your arguments will be more genuine. So now there's another part of this. Let me see. A second part here on Monica. She debunks Stephanie Turner. Now, Stephanie Turner, of course, she has made her way with Riley Gaines. They are like now two peas in a pod in this fight, because Stephanie Turner was a fencer who she made headlines for kneeling during a competition against a trans athlete. And so Monica highlights that Turner had previously competed against men without any issues, but expressed discomfort when facing a trans athlete. So she competed against men before with no problem. This is what Monica's saying. We're going to play the video in a second. So, and this is the problem I have with these inconsistent people that come out and jump in the front lines over trans athletes. So you competed against men. You never said a word, but then now, since you have to face a trans athlete, you had a problem. And Monica's going to argue about that Turner's actions was more of a publicity stunt, I guess, to become the next Riley Gaines. And this is the problem. This is the issue I have, is the stunts around this. And it does come off as transphobe. It really does. And I think that's why people are going to say, well, if you didn't have an issue with when you competed against men, why are you having an issue now that you have to compete against a trans athlete? Is because you're transphobic? Right? And that's how it comes off as hate instead of genuine concern about protecting women's sports. You want to keep, if you like I said, if you want to concern about the female sport, protecting the institution of women's sports, then you want to stay on that lane instead of going into the transphobic lane. And it seems Stephanie Turner may have leaned towards the transphobic lane. I don't know Stephanie Turner personally. I'm just saying, Monica. We're gonna play the Monica video again. She's gonna talk about the Stephanie Turner situation, and this is her expertise on the tee because she actually medaled and she is a fencer herself. So let's play that video, and we'll get back with the response.
Olympic fencer here to clear the air on some things that you've seen in the media. You likely saw this image somewhere on TV, in the news, on print, whatever. Anyways, this person kneeled and made a spectacle because they recorded this, which is, I'm trying really hard to keep opinions to myself. Because she admitted that she wanted to make a stand, but you're kneeling. Anyway, so Fox News, the most honest news station that there is. If you can't tell sarcasm, I'm so sorry, you need to get off this video. They said that she's a hero for doing this. Pause. The week prior to competing at this event, where she had to fence a trans athlete who she misgenders, that was this cherry blossom event on the 30th of March. On March 23rd, she fenced a mixed event with actual men. So you see D for defeat, V for victory, V for victory, D for defeat, V for victory. So that's 3 victories. I believe she won 1 direct elimination to 15 and then lost the next one. It's just hard to pull up. I think this says a lot already. So she had no problem fencing actual men that don't take testosterone inhibitors for a year prior in order to be able to compete, and all that stuff that trans athletes have to do in order to be allowed to compete. No issue there, but the following week she had a problem fencing a trans athlete. I just know someone's gonna say, well, Monica, have you fenced men in a tournament? Why, yes, I have. Look, I got second. Look, I got first. And the trans athlete that Miss Turner was so afraid to compete against only won 2 bouts and pools. It's just not an impressive result. If somebody has advantages, that is not, that's not what that looks like. And then lost her first direct elimination and finished, I think, 24th or 25th out of 34. Again, that's not what having advantages looks like. And the tournament was won by a cisgender athlete and 24 other cisgender athletes, or 23. So, yeah. Also, Stephanie Turner, nowhere near an Olympic team. She's not even on national point standings. I pull it up, but it's a long thing, and she's just not. You can trust me on it. If you need me to DM it to you, I'm happy to send it to you. And the only time that I actually was hurt in my sport was by women. I had a blade go into my kneecap, or hit it, whatever. Hurt really bad at a World Cup. And then I had my Olympic teammate punch me in the face with the sword one time at practice. The guys never hurt me. It was the women. Just leave it at this, okay? It was a stunt. And I guess she got what she wanted because now she's in the news. So I guess mission successful to her, but I never had an issue fencing men, actual men that were not taking testosterone inhibitors. And I have spoken to trans athletes about what they have to do. And again, it's a year of taking inhibitors and certain levels, and they get tested. They have to submit those results. So this isn't just you come out and you're like, I'm trans and I'm going to fence or I'm going to swim.
So there you have it. There is Monica again debunking. And this time she pretty much says that she believes that Stephanie Turner's move was a stunt. And so, and this is the issue, when these two people here are the face of your fight against protecting women's sports, it seems to be a fraud, right? These two are frauds. That's how it comes off. And it's really, like I said, yes, the right wing, they'll champion it, they'll jump behind it as, they're fighting for protecting women and this big culture issue thing, which in reality, it's almost hypocritical in that sense, because it's do they really even care about women when they do other stuff? Not the people on the ground, more like the politicians who don't really care about women on the right. But the culture space is oh yeah, this is something we got to, only because the other side will argue and support trans people existence. So it's like we have to have an issue to counter. They support trans, so we have to have something that we can fight them on. So let's fight them on trans in women's sports. And let's make that a big, big thing. So they find people who are fighting against this, but are these the right faces for that cause? And that is the question that you have to ask yourself. Are these two women the people that you want to fight your cause when the cause seems to be very fraudulent? It's been debunked. I mean, you have an Olympic winning athlete that actual medaled telling you and debunking this stunt by Stephanie Turner. I mean, if she a week prior competed and you could find the info online, right? It's not like it's like hidden or she was competing against men in a backyard event no one knew about. It was like behind closed doors. What other reason could you be upset after competing against a man the previous week and had no problem doing it? And then all of a sudden you have an issue because the person is trans. That is kind of messed up. I mean, it's very suspicious. Right? It's very suspicious. Now, like I said, I think with Riley Gaines' situation, and if Riley is genuinely concerned about this, it shouldn't really matter what place she finished in, right? That's how I feel about that. If she finished 2000th, 35th, it shouldn't matter. If she thinks that this is not good for women, then, fine. But I think with Stephanie Turner's stunt is probably a little bit more egregious to me, because if you're already competing against men and you had no problem with it, then after when the trans athlete came up, you want to take a knee. That smells more fraudulent. That's actually more fraudulent, in my opinion, than Riley Gaines' stunt, right? Because you actually competed with men. I don't know if there's any evidence that Riley Gaines was out competing against male swimmers and then all of a sudden complained after facing a trans swimmer. I haven't seen that. But Stephanie Turner competes against men the week before. No issues, no problems, no complaints. And then complains when then does the kneeling and against a trans athlete, which could come off as a stunt. So Stephanie Turner's situation is much more egregious. But I think both of them are coming off a bit fraudulent. Now, Riley Gaines, in certain states there are passing law. I think Georgia has a Riley Gaines Act, so they are passing laws in the name of her. So maybe to her this feels like an accomplishment, even though she felt like she might have lied or misrepresented her accomplishments to get this done. To her, it seems like it's successful. Now with Stephanie Turner, I don't know what is going to come about that. Will she get things passed? Will she be able to push legislation to get things changed? I don't know. But this whole thing is kind of, I just thought that when I saw Monica's videos, I thought this is interesting because you never really seen anybody. I hadn't seen no women out there actually come out and say, "Hey, I'm going to debunk this," or "This is not fairly true," because a lot of the women are probably afraid to take that stand or even speak out. Like you hear women speaking out that don't compete in sports. I've seen a bunch of those women, but we have an actual woman here who is in the thick of things and an athlete herself and explained it. And I thought that was interesting to react to. But anyway, look, I know I get it. Anybody who's against this stuff is going to be like, oh, yeah, whatever. They don't care. And you guys hate trans people. I know, I get it. There's probably a large percentage of our followers that don't even like trans people or trans athletes at all. And so we're probably going to get crushed for that in the comments. But I just still think that if you're going to fight for a cause, you got to be genuine. Sorry. That's just my opinion. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's trans athletes. I don't care if it's civil rights. I don't care if it's anything. You got to be genuine. You got to be legit. And when you're not, you kind of make your protests and your cause, you kind of make it a joke. And right now, it's looking like a joke.